All right, guys, welcome back. And this is your first time. Welcome. Don't Let Me God. I'm Joseph, and I have a super, super special guest. Um, I would say my favorite word to describe you is transparent.
Hmm.
And I've never in my life seen transparent look so powerful, right?
Hmm.
It's so much. So, okay, so first this is Fatima Saleh.
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Hi, y'all.
She is phenomenal. I've seen a lot of speakers and preachers and convey of words, and she is the only person that I would travel to actually see, like of all people. And
Hmm.
it's because you're genuine, humble, and transparent
Hmm.
with your words, with your appearance, with all this. And so, as a gift to the people, right? You, how are you?
I'm I'm first of all, I'm so humbled by what you just said. Like I'm trying not to get teary to start off with. Thank you. I like humbly received that, and I'm gonna hold it really close because it matters when people tell you that, like when you speak or when you move, that it's actually making it it's making it to a heart. I'm okay. I think this year has been really rough. I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm ending towards the end of this year and trying to just I'm trying to make it. It's been a really grueling couple of years, and so I'm ho- I'm trying to hold on here, and I have recently entered into a period of holy hush where I'm not preaching or teaching since October because I just wanted to figure out what I believe again, like to reorient myself and kind of figure out, like, stop talking for a moment so maybe I can hear better.
Yeah. So that goes in today's topic. Okay, so today's show is the greatest war never told. Is the war of self.
Hmm.
So normally we start the show and I'll say this quote: God, love, and truth are universal, but the specifics of God, love, and truth are not.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, if you can, real quick, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's pretty powerful. I'm still sinking it in. I do think as we journey with the divine, it's it's going to look different for all of us. I even think, like at the end of my journey, my children, all four of them, who are very different souls, are probably going to describe four different mothers to you.
Hmm.
Simply because I have one who's always late and I have one who's always early. And I remember yelling at both of them in the car at the same time. And I yelled at one, "You need to take life more seriously and get on time." And at the same time, I turned to the other one, I'm like, "You freaking out about getting places early is driving all of us crazy. So I need you to just chill out." And I realized I was giving two very opposing sort of directives or instructions, and I realized because each of my children are so different in how they've come and move in the world, that probably at the end of my life, hopefully, they will describe a mother that was attuned and moved with them. So I have no problem of thinking of a God that is very particular to each of us in our relationship with God. And those truths being very individual and personal. Yes.
Listen, yes, having kids, like at least more than one now. I agree. I can understand that conversation.
I mean, you're one human, but you're actually moving in very different capacities with each of these children.
Hmm.
I mean, I really do say my theology stems from the womb and my idea of like how I've known God best through my parenting, through my motherhood.
So, to get into the show, the greatest war never told is the war of self. And so, I said my favorite word to describe you is transparent. And earlier, when I was talking to my wife, I used vulnerable first, and then I changed it.
Hmm.
And the reason I changed it was because when I hear vulnerable, I hear, I see like you're open for attack, right? You're
Hmm.
open, um, you're not protected, right? And then I changed it because I felt that vulnerable or using that word specifically comes from insecurity. But then I also said I've never seen nothing more powerful. And so I changed it to transparent because though you speak of, let's say, emotional situations, very special and close to the chest situations, you speak about it with so much power that I don't see vulnerable from you. And so, and in your journey, what has been, if you're willing to talk about it, what has been one of the most difficult wars of self that you've gone through or even continue to go through?
It's a really powerful question. I think so. One of the what comes off first is that I have a really I've been battling imposter syndrome for a long time. That and second is that I have been wrong theologically. I have been on the wrong side of things and thought and believed them and like ho hum like this is it, and then come to find out that wasn't really it. And if I can say, to be very honest, I don't always trust my beliefs, like because they've been wrong. I mean, I've been, and I want to attribute it to growth, but there's some ways that I believe that were deeply harmful and
Hmm.
were not built a theological belief or that was not built out of love. And I advocated for it and spoke about it in ways that that later I would have to go back and apologize. And so now here I am at 47 and clergy, and I'm like, I hold my faith very fragilely. I'm like, I think I believe that, but hold that, because I could be, it could change, it could bloom, it could self-destruct. And I give my faith the opportunity to be flexible and to also not hold on to any belief so strongly that God can't change it. So I think one of the biggest powers of self, the things that I've gone up against is like, Fatima, do not, do not hold to something so strictly that you cannot let it go. And do not use your faith or theology to harm another. And yeah, or to destroy another's faith in ways that is needed. So I think the biggest power of self for me is just how do I walk in belief and still hold it tenderly?
Yeah. For me, it's so I don't know. Well, did you grow up in church or
Yeah,
in religion? I
I
guess.
did. I grew up in religion. So I grew up Muslim, but my grandma was Pentecostal holiness. And so when she had us, which was often, so I grew up both in Islamic and Black holiness Pentecostal, which is a really good balance of just like how do you hold faith, that looks and traverses differently. How about you?
What? No, so uh, I didn't grow up in church. I wasn't a stranger to it, but I didn't grow up in it. And like I lived with my mother's mother for 11 years. And um, the closest woman, both of my grandmothers actually, are the closest women to my heart,
Huh.
but at different times. So as a child, as my mother's mother. And so we never had any conversation or anything like that. She would read her Bible, but and that's about as far as it went. Like it was never imposed on us or anything like that. And so for me, uh, I never really thought about it, like
Huh.
religion or anything like that. I never took to or anything. Even to this day, it's still not something that I take to. But that was also my battle was that, okay, God, listen, I'm talking to you directly, but you have me in these environments with these other people who one, I don't I don't fully agree with what's being said or even how it's interpreted,
Hmm.
right? And so God says to me, He says, um, what they do is for them.
Hmm.
It's not for you.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, well, why am I here? Well, if if they're doing it for them, why am I here? And God says, because you have to be. More than anything, you're an image, right? You're a support, you're a reinforcement of who I am. But
Hmm.
the specifics of how they operate has nothing to do with you. And how you operate has nothing to do with them. But you can still coexist.
Hmm.
And so for me, in every setting that I go to, the first thing I'm thinking is, why am I here? And how can I coexist?
Hmm.
Especially if I see or hear something that makes me uncomfortable. Because, as a child, they say birds of a feather flock together, right? I am with these people, at least in this setting. And so that's my first thought. Do they think I'm with them? Do I think I'm with them? Why am I with them? What is the purpose of this gathering? And, most times, I don't know the answer. But if there's a purpose, then I'm for it. Even if I'm not for it, I'm for it.
Hmm.
And so for me, my movement is solely based off purpose, even if I don't know. And so that's the battle of I don't want to do this, God. I don't want to be here. I shouldn't be here, but I'm here. So why am I here?
Why am I
And
here?
we're gonna have this dialogue. I remember my father's mother. She told me, she said, "Listen, it's okay if you want to fuss with God. Like that's fine. You
Hmm.
need to get it out.
Yeah.
Like don't feel like you can't talk to God any kind of way, because ultimately, if my belief of God, right, being all knowing, all powerful, all everything, then God knows that this is coming. So this isn't disrespectful or anything like that. This is authentic.
Yeah.
And in the moment, that's the type of conversation we need to have for it to get across. And we've had plenty.
So, have you always known there was a God? I mean, like, where or do you know the moment or when you began believing in a God?
Uh, to be honest, I don't. Um, I would say when I was 12, I was in South Carolina with my father's mother. Coincidentally, and this is an even greater story, hindsight, right? But so, like I told you pre-show that my father died while my mother was pregnant with me. This is back in the time when there's no internet. There's 1-800, and,
Yes.
and and so somehow, because my father's from South Carolina, and all the families in South Carolina, and I'm from Louisiana, and all my mother's family is in Louisiana. Somehow, my grandmother had the address. My mother's mother had the address to my father's mother, and she was sending her letters about me. And this is when I was about 6 or 7.
Mm.
And coincidentally, my father's mother kept the letter and she gave them to me, and so I have those letters. Um,
Hmm.
and when I went to South Carolina, my mother's mother passed.
No.
But that was also the beginning of my relationship with my father's mother.
Hmm.
And so that's why those two women are like the closest to my heart.
Hmm.
Um,
They raised you
well, that's
in part and loved on you.
that's what it was. So here's what I would say. Technically, no one raised me.
Uh.
But what they did, what both grandmothers did, and my mother and my two older siblings, they gave me space to be myself.
Huh.
And so they never taught me anything. And at the time, as a child, I thought I felt more neglected than enriched, right? Or encouraged.
Hmm.
But then I got older and I realized that more so they trusted me so young and they trusted my decision making so young that they allowed me to kind of pave my own way.
Hmm.
And so they didn't teach me, but they always, anytime that there was something that came, they told me, I believe in you and I know you'll fix it. I know you can do it. I know you'll figure it out. And
Hmm.
so because of that, I had to pave the way, right? I didn't know where I was going, but they're like, listen, we believe in you. We know you'll figure it out. And I'm like, you're right. Absolutely, I will. Hmm.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. So on the story, when I was 12, I was in my room. I was in South Carolina. I was in my room and I had, let's say, a vision, right? Of my grandmother coming in my room and something. I can't remember. I did something that day. It was bad. Um, and so I saw that, and then I kid you not, 2 seconds later that happened, and I was like, "Oh, this is crazy. I don't know what this is." But now my father's mother, she was raised in church. She goes to church. I had to go with her and all that, and I still didn't understand it. I'm like, whatever, guys. Y'all do y'all thing. I'm just gonna go to sleep, right? Um, and I think when that happened, I felt, I'm not going to say there was a God. I don't think I ever necessarily thought that there was a God. I just thought that there was something. I was like, oh, that's not normal. And I'm also not going to tell anyone because I know it's not normal. uh, and then really from there, it grew, right? And so for me, I think I noticed the gifts first.
Hmm.
And then um, I think I just accepted that there was God because America is like a heavy Christian country.
Hmm.
And so I just kind of accepted it, but I really didn't know and understand what that meant until maybe I was in my 20s, if not later. Um, and so everything else, I was just like, I don't know, guys. I just kind of lived life as it presented itself to me. And I never really thought about it. I just kind of accepted it. And then, yeah, no, I'll say 20s. Actually, yes, we're going to go 20s because I think when I went to Berean was really the first time I ever intentionally spoke to God or had a conversation with God. Um, because I was there and I was like, God, what am I here for? What is this? I had my own beliefs of life. In hindsight, I was always dealing with God, but it
Hmm.
wasn't intentional, right? It was just like, you know, uh, I knew, but I didn't understand. And so then when that relationship became more intentional on my end, my relationship in general with myself and everything around me became more God based.
Hmm. Hmm. That relationship became more intentional on my end.
Listen, there are some stories I'm like, wasn't me. And even so, I was in high school, I was in Louisiana, and I ran track. And I ran a race, and it was a horrible race. Like, I felt terrible. I lost. And it was my home school, so I was walking home. It was like pitch black middle of the night. And I had walked home before, just not at nighttime. And I got to a corner, and I kid you not, my next door neighbor, who I had went to elementary school with, pulled up and said, "Hey, do you want to ride home?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so he picked me up. We went to his own house, and then he took us home. And I said, "Huh, I wonder what I was saved from." Because a second too late or a second too early, and that would have not happened. And I was like, wow. So I knew there was something. I didn't know, like, I used the name God or term God just because it's what was said when I was growing up.
Yeah, it's the language.
Yeah. But how I define God is everything and nothing,
Yeah.
but something.
Yeah. It's immense. God is immense, deep and wide, and I like to call the divine untamed and wild. Um,
Yeah.
I believe in a wild and untamed God, and we do no justice to the divine by trying to tame it, to tame the divine, or try to make it less wild. Um, you know, trying to domesticate a wild God is just not going to work in our favor.
No, not
So
at
many of
all.
us need a wild and untamed God to to hold us and lead us through this journey, which tends to be quite rocky. And I say it's an extreme sport to follow God. Um, it's jump off this cliff, hang glide off of here, dive here. And so I feel like that's my journey of discipleship. It's like this complete extreme discipleship of jumping off high places, diving into deep expanses of and
You know
taking
what
risk
happened?
into things that I don't always know how they'll end.
I would say for me, the biggest influence of God within me is outside of me,
Mm,
right? Um, when I became an adult, right, I realized that a lot of people didn't have the space that I had. And
mm,
so a lot of their actions was based off guidance from parents or other people in their life. And I didn't have that. And so a lot of my actions were based off of me, which as an adult is a plus. There's also a lot of negatives in there when it comes to specifically dealing with society. or it's just anything outside of me. I would say my social development was the most lacking thing because I was always to myself. And so a lot of things I didn't understand. And that's why I would
Hmm.
always be like, God, why am I
Hmm.
here? I don't understand the
Do you,
association. We're completely different. We have nothing in common, or at least the things that we have in common, they do not look the same.
hmm.
That's a problem, at least on my end. And I'm just, I'm not really a go along to get along person. If I don't like it and it's not necessary, I'm going to leave it person. Um, yeah, and a lot of people aren't like that. And
Hmm.
I thought that was common mostly because I was just by myself and I assumed that that's the way everyone operates. But that's not. So,
Hmm. How do you feel? Are you feel like you are changing those parts of you, or growing into a different sense, or becoming more of that person?
all of it.
All of it.
I think that for me, I think, or at least one of my principal beliefs about self is no one can add to you. Like you were born who you were supposed to be, but the different settings and different peoples bring out of you what's necessary for the growth. So, yes, there has been a lot of growth and understanding. I think there are a couple levels. I would say knowledge is first, and then understanding, and then applying, and then being able to teach what you have now applied. Um,
Hmm.
and I would say for me, I am growing in that direction. I don't look at I don't look at anything being completed for myself until I've passed.
Yeah, the journey's
And
done.
so anything before that, like I'm like, yeah, I hope I'm on the right track.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, is what I call myself.
Yeah. Um, I would say my ultimate goal or desire. Oh, also, fun fact, people. And this is another war of self. This is my current battle. I've never set a goal in my life. I've only had two desires. One desire was to live my purpose filled life, and the other desire was to have my own family.
Hmm.
And that's it.
Hmm.
But now I'm in a place where I have to essentially put more organization in my life.
Hmm.
And with that comes setting goals. And I'm like, this is so different. I'm used to just going with the flow. Um, it's hard. It's hard. But
Hmm.
yeah. How about you?
I'm not a goal oriented person, oddly enough. So I'm probably not the person you should talk to. I set them and then I'm always disappointed. And then so I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and eliminate that little disappointment on myself. And just also, I've lived in such a life where so many people gave me my goals early on and told me what my goals should be, that I think part of my rebellion is that I don't set goals because I felt like that was a way. I had too many people or organizations, church included, set goals for me that I wasn't in conversation with, that I
Hmm.
didn't get a say as to what those goals were. So I think it made me goal adverse, which is probably a response to that. And so it's not necessarily that I don't have goals. I just don't name them that way, and I don't move in them because I haven't gotten over self imposed, like organizational, institutional, and even other folks imposing their goals and expectations on my life. So I'm trying to free myself in a way, but it's not a good response to just avoid it altogether. And so I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it.
Yeah. Listen, uh,
And then I
man,
don't know if my
listen.
goals are not colonized, and so my dreams are colonized. I'm married to this man that I absolutely adore, and is so quirky. And this white man is just lovely. But one time he told me that I don't dream big enough, that he felt my dreams were colonized. And I'm like, how is he going to tell me? And he was spot on. He's like, I see so much more and bigger things from you that are boundless, almost limitless. But you have so many limits to even how you dream and about what you can do. And I honestly had to say, I'm fearful to dream any bigger. And so, in talking about ourselves, it's also recognizing that sometimes I'm setting goals and dreams for myself, but they've been fully colonized or moved in a way that I've had other people tell me what my purpose, or hey, if you get a PhD, this is what it looks like. It looks like tenure at a university. Hey, if you become a reverend, it looks like you pastoring a church in this way. And and I'm a PhD who's not in academia, and I'm a public scholar. I'm a reverend who really loves to help and move with other pastors and move in other pastors in their work. And while I have a church home, I don't move in the traditional ways of pastoral work. Pastors call me their pastor. So my ways of pastoring are, so even the ways in which I do the work I do in this life, it wasn't what was envisioned by institutions and organizations. And so I think that I sometimes lack divine imagination or the ability to tap into a divine imagination that's rooted in my imago Dei, the image of God in which I'm created, which you spoke about. And so
Mhm.
I'm definitely, one of my biggest conflicts of self is that in the words of my beautiful human that I'm married to, I sometimes fail to dream big enough and outside of limits. So while I believe in an untamed and wild God, I have very domestic and tamed ideas of how I can live and move in my call. And that is probably one of the greatest inhibitors to my own call in life.